Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
Hey, everyone. I'm Nick Gambarian.
Hey, it's Mike Forster. Welcome back, Nick.
Thanks.
USA.
And I.
Tell us about your trip.
Well, first of all, let me start over. I'm Uncle Godfather Nick.
Whoa.
From here on out.
Nice.
I had to go to New York for my nephew's baptism. And then I went to London after that. Bayside hasn't been to, why did I just say London? I meant the United Kingdom. I went to the United Kingdom for the first time in like 7 years. It was like 2,000 something days since Bayside has played a show in the UK. So we had 2 headlining gigs, and then we played our first ever download festival. Everything was successful. I've been home fighting the littlest bit of jet lag, but I'm doing good. Just watched Acolyte twice before we recorded.
Wow.
So ask me anything. I know it all.
Quote it from the first line. Do the whole thing. Go.
The Star Wars.
In a time of stars, there was a war.
Speaking of ancient weapons.
Speaking of, what about the attack on the Wookiees?
What's with all these stars?
I've just got to say, I'm glad that the haters have, because after, of course, we all know that the haters love to, they jump on social media, and, my favorite response to that is always, this is not an airport. You don't have to announce your departure. People being like, that's it. I'm done with this show. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And for me, I'm like, great.
Bots.
See you later.
Sounds
good.
Great.
The bots have, right? I'm like,
they're all bots.
The bots have left us alone. They've said, we're ending my programming. I'm ending my script. I'm not doing this anymore. So I'm like, that's cool. That's fine. Do what you got to do. Because this was the episode that I think a lot of people saw in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
They saw and they said, what is happening here? And we got it. This is it. And now, Adam, briefly off the top of your head, is that everything we've seen in the trailer thus far? Not obviously we see the spinning lightsaber, but I feel like we're going to start next episode probably in that, and then we're blind after that.
There's very little left.
The one thing that I'm not looking forward to, I haven't seen yet. The one thing I'm going to be a hater about.
Okay, what's that?
The ropey lightsaber.
Oh yeah, sure.
That's just fuel on the fire. Like, just don't do that right now. Like, This is not the time to do ropey lightsaber, guys.
Sure.
There's a time and a place. This is neither.
Right.
Yeah, the haters are gonna hate that one. It looks cool in the comics.
Yeah, it's purple.
Yeah.
And
it is
purple.
just it's giving Wonder Woman a little bit, and I think people are not gonna be pleased. Yeah. Even though that is like a classic thing that, like an EU thing that people would just be, foaming at the mouth for. And we get it, and everyone is instead acting like, the average customer that would come into the Genius Bar when I worked at Apple and storm out and say, like, I'm getting a Samsung. And so, enjoy.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right.
I just it seems like when you're brainstorming, it's like no ideas are bad ideas, and like it's like ropey lightsaber.
Yeah.
And it's like let's just not do that one, guys.
Right.
Yeah.
But the purple ropey lightsaber is where people would be like, see, EU used to respect Star Wars, and I'm like, okay, so the best idea we came up with was Luke with 2 U's, and we're just gonna clone. I'm like, come on, like there is plenty of dumb things in the EU.
Let's not act like it's just like gospel handed down from the heavens. Like it's all, this is all weird space shit. Everything's fine.
You know what the best, I try to not spend time. I mean, here we are spending time. But it's really crazy how much stuff I don't like in the world, and I don't watch it. I don't listen. I don't tell people about. Like, there's so much that I don't like, but you don't hear it from me. Huh?
Dude, I love Star Trek. I grew up on Star Trek as well as Star Wars, and there's plenty of stuff in the new Star Trek series that I'm just like, doesn't really do it for me that much. I'll try to watch it again, see if it does it for me next time. If it doesn't, I'll move along.
You don't head immediately over to Rotten Tomatoes, and you're like, I've never been so insulted in my life about whatever this. They are bots, but there's plenty of there's real people out there who just don't like it, and that's fine. It's fine.
But people out there who are, like, it's clear when 40 minutes after it airs that people are just commenting what they commented 3 weeks ago. Like they haven't watched it.
Or it
Yeah.
got review
Yes.
bombed before the
Yeah.
episode even aired.
Yeah,
It,
so,
it goes 1 minute in, and it's like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
And I have to one last thing before we really get into it. I have to respond verbally to a message that we got from a listener who was disappointed because I deleted his comment that said, I don't really like this show. It was something very mild,
Sure.
but I was, on a deleting spree of many like gnarly, super toxic comments, like complete shit, worst thing ever, just Star Wars is dead, like, all the usual shit. I was like, delete, delete, like, we don't need that vibe. And the dude was disappointed because, I deleted a comment that was just a very polite, hey, I don't like this.
Sure.
And that's valid. But what I said back was, dude, I'm sorry, but there's just like so much toxicity. I literally can't look at a single post about the Acolyte without seeing that.
Sure.
So if we could just keep it positive. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything, like that classic kind of thing, just for the sake of like a little woosah space for anyone who likes the show to be able to look at the comments and not have to see anything negative.
Sure.
If you want to see negativity, you can scroll to the very next post and it's there for you and you can engage in that conversation. There's no shortage of that. What there is a shortage of is people just talking about, hey, this was cool. Oh, what was this? I didn't notice that. Just, normal discourse about the thing that doesn't include this blows, this sucks, I hate it, here's why.
Right.
That's all I'm trying to do.
And equally too, like I think on the other side of things, it's very, in my opinion, there's been plenty of things that Star Wars has done officially that I'm like, maybe if I was in the driver's seat, I would have done it different. But like, there's so much to like in this too that makes me have great philosophical discussions. We did have a comment on our review last week that was like, that of course the inclusion fallacy of being able to say, it's hard to form an opinion about something if someone has to be excluded. And I think Adam, your response was good, but I think there is something about the idea of saying, when we open up this discussion through smart thinking and also through a lens of going, we can't for if the overall feeling is that like it's not for me, that's totally cool, because I actually felt that way with Marvel. Like there's a lot of stuff that I watched and I was like, this just isn't for me. Yeah. But again, going back to the point of what you were saying, Adam, was like, I never went on IGN and said, use me as the fire Kevin Feige button. You know what I mean? Like I would never do that. It doesn't make sense, because I think deep down, I know what goes into these shows. We know people who have been on these shows. We know people who have written, who have been part of this. Like they're all on Instagram. You can literally reach out to Kevin Scott, who's one of the best writers of the High Republic, and who, is been consulted. He's been, part of this process of developing the High Republic. And these people are not impervious to this, like when this stuff happens, like they are seeing it and it's driving talent away from Star Wars. And if that is your thing of going, I'd rather burn it all down, then truly, then let's leave it. Let's say that, let's not invest in this anymore. Let's make this be, it's like, I look at things like cult classics like Starship Troopers. I look at things like Indiana Jones. Like we got a new movie, but it sat dormant for 20 years, basically. I look at other really interesting properties like, movies that were huge when we were growing up. Independence Day, all of this stuff. Like they just stopped doing stuff with it. They made a sequel and they were like, this was terrible. And then they never touched it again. And if that's what you want, if that's the way that we want to keep doing it, then but equally saying like, we don't want remember berries. We want something different. We want something new. I'm like, this is literally, this is it. This is it. This is it. So I don't know. I think that's just, I hate that we have to discuss this every time.
Yeah, this one is more rooted in like, we should not give the real people, not the bots, any credit. Like this is not coming from anywhere constructive or anything. Like this is just everything bad, and this is all, in a weird way. I had the thought earlier where I'm like, is this good for Star Wars and Lucasfilm right now? They're clearly posting more than they ever had about the show, and they're getting a lot of engagement. Is this just a scenario where it's like, no, there's no such thing as bad press, you know, because that's algorithms reward these things. So are these
hip-hop style? Thank you to the haters.
Are these posts getting seen more? You know, So I don't know. It's just like I like talking about it because it's like, hey. Not very often do I feel like I'm better than anyone, but like the people who comment, I'm like, oh, at least I'm better than these people.
But also, like, I think we always enjoy a great, thoughtful discussion on, you know, I think we had a listener who I think was a foundational religion. I'm assuming Catholic or something like that, but you know, that point of it, like when you come at it from like, I thought his response was really well. It was just like, hey, you know, just think about this when you're having conversations like that. And I'm generally like, well, to be fair, I make fun of everybody. But certainly there is a point of it where it's like, if we're having thoughtful discussion, and I think I always invite anybody to, I have tons of messages whenever I post about the show, like, hey, this is a really cool episode this week. I get a lot of people who just want to share their thoughts on it because they don't have podcasts. And I always have really great discussions about some people who just like, it hasn't hooked them yet. It hasn't got them yet, but they notice those like smart little details. And that's the stuff that we hold on to. But I see it in terms of going, you know, at any point when we start getting numbers out here too, because apparently this one I can't tell if the numbers they're okay. They're not, it's not great. It's not what it was. And then people are like, well, the Andor was the gold standard. And I'm like, you guys all called Andor boring too. Like don't make it seem like you were sitting here like championing for Andor. You were not. You were saying like the first 3 episodes, you're like, is this the most boring? This is what Star Wars is now. I'm just like, oh my God, like what is going on? So I don't think it's about anyone. If you don't like the show, and that's fine, let's have good discussions about it though. At least that's how I feel. Just, you know, this
it's
like
just not, again, I've probably said this a million times, none of it is based in rational thought, you know, like it's racism and bigotry and whatever else you want to say, like this one in particular. But it's like, how do you watch a show, one episode of a show and like not like anything about it or where it might go? Like, why did you tune in the first place? Like, it doesn't, anyone who's out there, again, who is a real person who is just hating on it, it's like clearly episode 4, what that just came out tonight, like this show has been like, what did Leslie say? It's like an onion, you know, like each episode is going to unravel. It's like, guess what? It's getting better. Like when you have the creator saying like the show gets better every episode on purpose, like what do you want? Like what more do you want? Like why are you tuning in the first place? Yes, because it's called Star Wars, sure, but this is also like one of the least Star Warsy feeling things that I've seen in a while, but I'm still tuning in and giving like every episode a shot, you know. And guess what, we're getting rewarded already. It's this one already. This was the first time I was like, I wish I could binge this all right now, like with this series. So
well, adolescent boys don't have patience, and that's what the majority of these comments are. I'm not joking. Like the majority, I'll go click on their profile, and it's from like, you know, a tween age to a mid-20s or maybe 30-year-old, still adolescent.
Huge fan of Menace fan. Huge.
So we're dealing with children. All right, let's get into discussion. That. We're done. Let's get into some real discussion about the Acolyte, episode 4. Day. One would have to assume next week is called night. I don't know why else this would be called day.
This makes sense.
Disney Plus description: racing to the next target, the Jedi head to a new world as they close in on the clever assassin.
Oh.
Assassin. I haven't heard her referred to. I mean, they're talking about May, right? I haven't heard her referred to as an assassin.
I thought they said in the first episode, this is someone's killing Jedi.
I've heard it somewhere, so yeah. I don't know if it was a description or actually in the show.
Yeah. One more thing in this this Stolen Plans-esque little discussion right here. Master Ki-Adi-Mundi returns.
Mm-hmm.
Played not by Silas Carson from the prequels, but played by Derek Arnold, a name that I had not heard, but I went to his IMDb. He's not an actor, but he's a puppeteer. He was a puppeteer on Rogue One, Solo, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, and Andor.
That's cool.
So
That's
Mike?
cool.
What did you say that the little character in Rogue One was named? The little
Pow.
guy? Pow? Yeah.
Yeah.
Little guy with the hat with the kind of ear flaps on it.
He just looks over and just screams.
Yeah. He's got
he's cool.
Scary little mouth, like almost like Critters.
Yep.
All right, let's get into discussing a few of like the major things that happened in this. So
we're gonna bounce back to him when we talk about the other thing.
We will.
Okay, let's do it.
Kilnaka living in isolation on Kofar. Basically the Jedi are gonna go try to get to him before May does. We open with a scene of him there in his crashed ship, turned into like a cave.
Yep.
He's got some symbols of the witches drawn on the walls. Very foreboding music. Pretty awesome.
He's got a cloak.
He does.
He's got a cloak on.
Looking awesome. Got a hood.
I thought it was also interesting too. Like so originally we'd watched this and thought that he doesn't want to be found. Like he's almost like off the grid. But like they knew exactly where he was.
Yeah.
So that kind of changes like my process about being like, oh, okay, so he's in isolation. But again, is this going back to Torben? Is this where he was like, listen, I need to do this. This is what the Force is telling me to do. Now I'm like, okay, here we go. This is interesting.
Yeah.
And they said they hadn't heard from him in over a year. So less time than I figured. I thought this was, as many as 10 or so like Torben, but not too long. So they have this meeting about May, which seems like a council meeting, but we get some clues here about what maybe like the vibe is, and if either of you guys have a better vibe from about like the hierarchy and the structure, sort of like the corporate structure of the Jedi. It seems like this is a council, but it's not the High Council.
Yeah,
no. Right.
This is a managers meeting, and they go. They were like, we need to bring this to the board, and they were like, can't do that. It's going to crash.
So
the
they
stock.
mentioned the High Council, but they also mentioned a Splinter Council. That's pretty interesting. Or Splinter Order.
Splinter Order. I thought that. Yeah.
Have
we heard that term? Patrons in the chat, have we heard about Splinter Orders?
I thought they were saying a Splinter Order was like a defection of bad guy. Were you getting that that it was a Splinter Order of good guys?
That's how I took it.
Well, I would say that any Splinter Order is bare minimum sub good guy, whether or not it's like full evil Sith.
Sure. But I was kind of imagining. I was kind of imagining that it basically like what they describe as like, you'd be like, oh, terrorists, right?
Right, Splinter Cell,
right? Yeah, there's a Splinter Cell of like someone who's like gone rogue from that, and those are like often even more dangerous because now they don't, they're too small to be either tracked or they have different ideals, which sometimes can be, Saddam Hussein was in order. He was in communication. He had, they knew that they could come to him and say, these are our terms. And they knew he did terrible things. But then you got some of these other guys who broke off. They were way worse because they didn't have to answer to anybody. There wasn't a balance that they needed to hold up, and they understood there was a country to run. So I think it's very interesting that, so Ki-Adi-Mundi says we must alert the High Council. Now, the thing that I think was interesting for people who are like, why is it significant that Ki-Adi-Mundi is there? This isn't just a throwback. This isn't just, oh my gosh, they threw in a character because that's what Star Wars loves to do. This Filoniism here, right?
Right.
Ki-Adi-Mundi was the one who said the Sith haven't been seen in over 1,000 years in The Phantom Menace.
Yes.
Right? So it's most important to recognize that we might be seeing the reason why he says this is because he might have been covering something up, or he might have been at that point.
Very deliberate sentence.
100%. And there's a reason that he's in there, right? And so like for people, when we saw the trailer come out and we said that, with this red lightsaber, the guy's got a mask, everyone automatically jumps to going, this is a Sith. This is it. Here we go. And then people immediately jump to the Phantom Menace and then now this is undoing George's legacy. It's like, no. You're seeing it right here. Like you're assuming that the Jedi are squeaky clean. You're assuming that everything that they say is truthful, yet Dark Disciple, right there, Yoda and Mace Windu team up to do something incredibly un-Jedi by saying, we need to kill Count Dooku. Like, the council did not agree to do that. Like, this is what I'm talking about. So I think it's all of this was very deliberate, tying completely right in to the Phantom Menace.
So Julia in the Patreon chat gave us a link to a Wikipedia article about Jedi Splinter Group, indirectly mentioned in the High Republic, A Test of Courage. Splinter Group and the Jedi Order active prior to or around 5000 BBY. Former Jedi turned to the dark side. Yada, yada,
so that's
yada.
Way before High Republic then.
Yeah.
5000 BBY.
The idea is some dark-leaning folks, I guess.
Okay.
This is someone who probably just foundationally disagrees with the teaching of the Jedi, and versus the this, I don't think it's necessarily fallen Jedi, but maybe just I mean, you could probably argue at some point that Ventress, Quinlan Vos, could have been, they were particularly rogue in some ways. The way that they operated, they would kind of go dark for a while. I'm sure you could probably tie a little bit into that by saying we know where they are, but they don't really listen to anybody.
Yeah.
You also have Orla Jareni, who at the High Republic, they were called Seekers. They were called Wayfinders, I believe. And they were kind of people to go and investigate, find channels of the Force or find other Force users. And they kind of had just gone where the Force would lead them, and they would just check back to be like, just following what the Force tells me. But they were part of the Jedi Council. They were part of the Jedi Order. And we don't really know where they would go, but Orla, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. She is. Damn it. Anyways, she was cool. Read the books.
Read the books. And then Vernestra responds to Ki-Adi-Mundi saying, we must alert the High Council with... The High Council would be obliged to inform the Senate, and a scandal like this would inspire fear and mistrust. So just like we talked about when we right away, the premiere talking about how this is a conspiracy thing, that all of this hammers at home, and then Mike, you're inside about Ki-Adi-Mundi being the one in the Phantom Menace. It's really starting to come together here. It's starting to make a lot of sense. And then Sol brings in Osha on this whole thing, almost, in like a civilian role, a non-Jedi role on this Jedi mission, kind of like Ahsoka in the series finale of the Clone Wars.
Said something about citizen robes or civilian robes, right?
Yeah. I'm not wearing those citizen robes.
Whatever she was wearing was dope, though. I love that.
It was yeah. I'm like, I'll take one of those.
And then little dude, what's his name, had one on as well, a little mini one. Basil, twins, Basil.
I know, that's all I could. Yeah. That's all I could hear. Basil. Oh,
and let's see. Let's talk quickly about Osha and Jecki, their conversation. So they had a conversation at the training room, because we revisit that. She's there training with another Jedi Master, right? And she has a conversation with Osha. And then they have a conversation when they're out in the woods on, what the hell's the planet called again?
Kofar.
Out in the woods on Kofar. Osha's sensing things again. There's a classic Star Wars, creature moment. Scary, you got to slay the creature. There's a big, like roly-poly looking ass thing that ends up being a flying monster that she kind of unsettles, and then it comes to attack.
An Umbra moth.
Oh,
pretty sick. Something very out of Fallen Order, I would say. Like, things that pop up out of the ground, you got to slice them up. I mean, very Fallen Order, but those were called Umbra moths, which is interesting.
So Sol has to slice this thing in half because it's coming for them. But then Osha feels guilty because, she's sensing things again. She's sensing things through the Force. She's reconnecting. She sensed that this thing was alive, and then when she disturbed it, it ended up getting killed. She feels guilty, and she's trying to process all of this stuff. They're talking about May, and they're still, it's like, it's classic Star Wars. It's like Luke. She's talking about there's still good in her. And then Jecki says she's a murderer. And, they're kind of going back and forth. And again, like, the actual Jedi aren't the ones with like with the highest emotional, the highest EQ.
Sure.
It's Osha with kind of that like deeper sense. And then they talk about how the reason she left is she could never accept death like a true Jedi. Because they're talking about how Soul killed this creature, right? And she feels guilty for it. And she was saying, I couldn't accept what I lost, how unfair it felt, So all these emotions are what led her to leave the Jedi Order. And then there's a great quote from Jecki. She says, "We're not defined by what we lose. We're defined by what we survive. You survived a lot." I thought that was incredible.
Because we see the ultimate defiance of that. I think what's interesting when you read that quote, we're defined by what we survive. Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Right? Like, became Darth Vader because he survived the fall of, his betrayal of Palpatine, or whatever you would say, the betrayal of the Jedi in his opinion. So he survived that, and it turned him completely to the other side. But then ultimately,
battle with his best friend, all of it.
Exactly, yeah. Right. So like that was an interesting quote to me listening to that. I was like, man, that applies to Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're defined by, you become the duel of the fates. You see your master, you become a master by default, trial by fire. We see this in Star Wars all the time. I thought it was a great quote.
The folks in the patron chat are also talking about this planet being strong with the Force, and maybe that's part of why Osha's waking up. Probably part of why Kelnaka's there. And there's all this ominous music the whole time, and there's all this discussion of, it being a hard planet to navigate, a dangerous planet to navigate, right? And going inside the perimeter of this huge forest, it's scary. It's got
looks
like
very Kashyyyk.
Yeah,
very like those tall trees with the high canopies.
Yeah,
really
but with like
sick.
the emotional tone of Dagobah in a way.
Yeah. Yep.
Down there in the on the ground level.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the big one. Something that's been talked about probably since the first episode. I haven't really dug into theories and stuff until this one just like smacked me right in the face. All three of us, I think, saw it in this one. Is Chimere Darth Zippy? Old zipper mouth.
I think I said it first episode.
Yeah,
I was like, I think that's the twist.
I hadn't heard that yet, but I like it.
Yeah, I think that's...
Is it too obvious?
There's a part of me that...
to actually be true?
I think, I want to say there's something interesting about him as... It is too obvious. I think when people really started to feel like it was giving it away was the fact that, like, this guy was like Chimere was overly like we were still unsure his total relationship with the master, right? Or like,
right.
He had like knew a ton of information, right? And then I think the thing that really threw people over the edge was when May thought that he betrayed, like he ratted on them to the Jedi, and
right.
She kind of like popped around the corner and tried to basically put a knife to him, and he just straight up was like, "Ooh, no, don't do that." Like, it was nothing. Like, just straight, for a guy who's supposed to be like a drunk,
right.
He all of a sudden he woke up pretty damn quick. And so I think there was a part of people started questioning at that point, like, what's going on here? Outside of things, I think the actor teased a couple things, but certainly I think there's something interesting happening. But I think there's a bigger twist coming on top of that. And again, we've speculated a lot that like he's also himself an apprentice.
Yeah. I like that.
So right. So I think this is certainly interesting. But like when he showed up, I was thoroughly creeped out. Like, just drifted down and like
horror movie style and out of focus in the background.
Yeah.
I love this. I just got goosebumps. It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. The patron chat, some people are saying, is it too obvious? And I'm like, I don't know that it is, because I've watched the same episodes everyone has different, I don't want to say intellect, but like Like everyone interprets things different ways, and it's like I'm watching the same show you guys are, and that did not occur to me yet. So you never know what you're like focusing on, so
Right,
I
right.
just see this fool here, but now I'm like, if I watch episode 1 through 4 thinking he is Darth Zippy, it's gonna probably point in that direction,
Right.
So let's say it is very obvious to some of us. None of us know because we weren't old enough to have this insight. The internet wasn't as big of a thing. There weren't as many interviews. Do we know how obvious it was supposed to be that Palpatine was Sidious in the Phantom Menace? Because I left it going, it's him, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, because they said
I was like,
they said his name, and I think that was like,
Yeah.
I remember at the beginning when they said Palpatine, it was like, oh, okay,
Yeah. There's some relation, whether it's him or not. You're like, why would they can't just be like.
And for the average viewer,
Jones, it's not a common name.
Right. For the average viewer who, hadn't read any books or anything, Palpatine was just a new name. Like nobody knew that. So was that supposed to be as obvious as it was? And if so, that sets a different bar for how obvious is okay. Granted, we're talking about 25 years later, and, viewers are smarter in a lot of ways, or different expectations. But if it is him, if it is this obvious, I think it's okay. Lots of people are going to shit bricks about it if it is the case, regardless, because no one can ever be happy. But I don't know. I think they could go either way. Nick, I'm with you. I think the idea of him being an apprentice of someone else is awesome.
I
and
love
there are some
that.
theories out there about that.
I definitely love that, but it also really shouldn't matter. He hasn't been in this show that much. Like it's not like all of a sudden Saul is him, like that would be another like that would be crazy too, but it's not like he's one of the main characters.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what also could be part of it too is that there's someone in the Jedi. I mean, mind you, like Senator Palpatine was meeting with the Jedi while
Constantly.
he was like on like side Sidiousing. Like, you know what I mean? Like he would like look over and be like, "Thank you very much. We look forward to meeting you." And then he'd turn around and be like, "Execute, blah, blah, blah." You know what I mean? Like the dude was like doing shit in the closet. Like, I mean, it's crazy. He was talking to Newt Gunray, and then the next second would be like, "Put on my nice robes. I'm going to talk to Mace Windu," and they had no idea.
Yeah, he was full blown Mrs. Doubtfire in and out of the bathroom with the costume.
100%. Allergic to shrimp. There is a part of me that still I am curious. Is the call coming from inside the house? Is there a Jedi that is turned? Is Osha? I don't know. I think there's certainly something going on here that would truly flip the script on what people thought. Like, I did not see that coming. But when you think about it from the standpoint of going, everyone's assuming that there's like some mysterious Sith that's sitting out in some spaceship far, far away, or pulling the strings. The strings could be pulled. At this point, it could be Jackie. It could be any of these. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is what I'm saying. It's insane. Indara might not be dead. We have no idea, right? So, I think we're getting into it, and we have 4 more episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the clues and thoughts around this. I put down some notes. So just aesthetically, similar build,
he's kind of got the low shoulders.
Yeah, slender neck. Yeah. The helmet looks pretty big on him. That's Jason Mendoza's build. Shout out anyone who knows. And the idea of him sort of playing a fool like Yoda, but a dark side version. He's clumsy, kind of sloppy and unkempt. He's got it's like a Kaiser Soze thing in a way.
Right.
Just the most unassuming, not that he acts like Kaiser Soze, but so much the opposite of what the legend and the character of this big evil figure would have you believe.
Right. He just came back from a barbershop quartet.
Yeah.
And you had no idea. That he was also Sith Lord on the side.
Yes.
Right.
And they have a couple conversations where you can tell he's kind of like manipulating her. Like it feels like he's testing her. So they're on Kofar before they head into the forest. They're right outside the ship, kind of packing up the boxes. And notice he trips and he kind of like knocks over the one case and stuff. So it's all the stuff to make him seem like nothing to be afraid of. He's not a threat. He couldn't possibly be the Sith Lord, right? They have this conversation. May says to him, "You went in the forest. You went in there and you risked your life for my master." And he says, "No, I risked my life to help you. Admit it. You need me."
Mm.
You know what I mean? So like, even like he's setting it up so he could reveal himself to her, and she fears, you know, in theory, she would fear and want to please this dark master, but also know that she needs this weird drunk dude who hasn't washed his hair this year. You know? So he's kind of playing both sides. Classic Sith stuff. Then during their walk, she asks him, "What was it like when you spoke to her?"
May's talking about Osha at this point.
Yeah, May's talking about Osha, sorry. And he said she seemed a little seemed in over her head, right?
Right.
And then he says, "You know, she seemed really fond of that one Jedi master. What was his name again? Soul?" And then the look on her face is like, "What?"
Yeah.
You know, he's playing her like a fiddle. You know what I mean? Very intentional.
Right. And that's too. And so what did you think what was your take on him intentionally like prodding her? Was that to unlock some anger? Was that to...
That was my knee-jerk interpretation.
Sure. Like get her stronger by being like, I need her jacked up to go kill Naka.
Yeah. And then they separate. He says, "I'm going to go get you some water," or something like that, right? And then he gets caught up in a snare, gets his foot grabbed like a trap. And at first I was thinking, oh, this is Naka. This is one of his traps, right?
Right.
Maybe it was. Maybe he did it on purpose. Either way, he puts himself in this position where she can't suspect it's him, right?
Right.
And then she takes that opportunity to say, "I'm done with this shit. I don't want this anymore. Osha being alive changes everything. My loyalty is to her, not to your master." She says, "I'm going to go surrender to Naka and basically give him the information about give the Jedi the information on the Sith, because he's like, they'll kill you, you know, they'll put you in prison or whatever." She's like, "Well, not if I tell them who I know." And then he says straight up, "He'll kill you." And it's not in like a, "Dude, he's going to kill you" kind of thing, or it like the tone is pretty dark.
Yep.
And then we don't see him again until, like, we just don't see him again for the rest of the episode. We, you know, we're meant to believe that he's still hanging, but
help.
Right, but we go.
Someone get me down.
The Jedi make it to Kelnaka's, you know, cave kind of thing, and he's there in the chair again. Classic horror movie vibes from the back.
May gets there first.
Oh, that's right.
She finds him. Yeah,
that's right, because she's in there, and then she's stuck. She's in a pickle because again, she looks like she killed somebody.
Right.
The camera comes around, and he's got a big slash that's still kind of smoldering on his chest. He's dead. Kelnaka is dead. So one Jedi left from the original incident, which is Soul. And then she's, you know, again, she's in the situation where the Jedi show up. Kelnaka's in there dead. And that's when the moment from the trailer happens. Soul's the first one to sense it. He turns around, and here comes Darth Zippy descending. They all turn around, and then the charge with the lightsabers from the trailer, all of that happens. And he does a force push. That's the big kind of dust explosion. Right. And
he's powerful.
Yeah. So what's the last shot? Oh, he pulls May up. He's got May. No, sorry. He pulls Osha up. He's got her right in front of him, draws the lightsaber between them. She steps away. Then he does the force push.
Right.
Well, he pushes her away, and then force pushes.
Yeah,
he
chucks her away.
Yeah, he like chucks her.
That's right.
Yeah, she's gone. So,
I had a thought, and it's probably out the window if Darth Zippy is Kaimar, but May had to kill Kelnaka without a weapon, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And technically, she was like the reason that Kelnaka was dead, and she didn't use a weapon like Darth Zippy did. So I was like, I wonder if that was like a weird lesson that Darth Zippy gave May. You know what I'm saying? Like the Wookiee is dead now, which was the goal. The goal was for her to not use a weapon to kill him, and technically she didn't use a weapon to kill him. But I think that might just all be thrown out at this point. Like to me, it's just I don't know what kind of dark side user we're dealing with here, because if we're talking about Kymar being like aloof, and he's also Darth Zippy, why would he fall for the trap of May screaming like "help me," and then he's up in the snare? You know, like why would he just fall for that?
Well, I think you're bringing up a great point, Nick.
Thanks. I tried.
Well, it's because you're very smart, and very handsome. I think there's a point of her decision killed Kelnaka.
Yes.
Like he is the executioner, and he knows that. He's more powerful than her. So like giving her the decision, like Palpatine did to Anakin by saying, "Listen, I'm not forcing you to do anything. You can see that the Jedi lied to you. You can see that the Jedi made all this stuff for you. He didn't do any. He didn't twist his mind. He didn't mind wipe him. He literally just said, think about this. Use your own brain and realize the lies of the Jedi, right?" And Anakin's like, you know what? Yep, I'm in. Screw these guys, right? So there is like kind of a classic throwback to going, if you believe the lie, then of course you're aloof enough to go, this is what it is. So this might be, again, one of those like, a Palpatine Sith. A lot of people in the Clone Wars understood that, the Jedi were getting inflated. They were getting, they were refusing to believe that, that their heroics actually caused bad guys, right? That the idea that they could sit here and go, "Hey, congratulations, kid, you've been saved," and they're like, "You crashed a ship into my parents' house. They're dead now," right?
Yeah.
Like, and they're like, "Well, at least that's one bad guy gone, though," right? And you're like, "What?" Unfortunately, this is a real life situation that happens with our own forces, but. So there's a lot of that where I think you're onto something, Nick. I mean, I think that is a very good point. I love that.
I guess what I'm doubting about that is I had that thought before it was possible that Darth Zippy was Kymar, but also wouldn't at this point, who is May in the story? Is she now like defected, or is she still with?
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Like, is she still like dark side?
Or does he try to pull Osha at this point?
I mean, or is this May's way of? I mean, May threw up her hands. I can't defeat a Wookiee. I can't do that, right? So what's your sister was really into Soul, right? She never trained with Soul, at least the way that we knew. So was this actually her way of manipulating to go, what if I say that I'm turning myself in? And she gets closer to Soul because Soul's like, "Oh, May, we got you." And she's like, "JK."
That's the plan. That's it. That's got to be it, right?
Think so?
That's a bullshit move. Yeah.
Let's see.
Maybe she has figured it out, and she's like, she's playing him now.
Right.
You're the Sith Lord, She's like, but she's not going to turn around like Anakin and say right to his face. She's like, all right, I'm out. She's going to go kill Soul. Oh, yeah, that's good.
And go above his master.
Yeah, like
or above him and go, I'm actually I'm next in line.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's see.
All right.
Let's see. Okay. What do the patrons think of this episode?
They seem to like it. No haters in this patron chat. Hey, can I just pat myself on the back for guessing who the focus would be in this episode when making the thumbnail for this YouTube thing?
Very smart. Very smart. Also very handsome.
During my band's rehearsal, I was like, it's probably him.
Yeah.
Rolled the dice. Got it right. Didn't get it right last week.
Yeah. That's okay.
Oh, that shot that I used for the pre-episode thumbnail of Soul in the ship in hyperspace. Mm-hmm. Haven't seen that one. Yep. Haven't seen the whip one.
Right.
I'll make in the next couple of days. I'll make the reel with the remaining trailer shots. It's going to be like. I wonder,
opinion, feeling. Do you think there's more flashbacks coming at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, because there's at least one footage of Kelnaka. He's in the woods there in his robes, and he's fighting another Jedi who's doing a flip over him.
Okay.
Right.
There's another flashback shot with. There's another one with Soul, right?
Yes.
Anyway, we'll put it out.
Yeah. So
I meant like besides those. I meant like besides those.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't know. I'm just kidding. I didn't mean besides those.
We'll see. Either way, Nick, I'm with you. When it ended, I'm like, next, come on, next, binge.
I know we're only 4 episodes in, but that was the first time that I definitely felt that.
Word. All right. Well, we're wrapping up. We're going to get out of here. The after show segment, the bonus segment for patrons, and the after show, we're going to pick from our Kelly Knox conversation cards, the chat pack. What's a good one? Let's take a look here.
Love the chat pack. Love it.
Oh, in 10 words or less, how would you describe the Force to someone who's never seen Star Wars? We'll talk about that in the after show segment for patrons. Patreon.com/ThankTheMakerPod if you want to be one of those people. If you don't want to, or you can't spend, a few bucks a month, whatever, write us a review. Put a review in your podcatcher of choice, or maybe throw us like a super chat in YouTube. Those are cheap. Give us a couple bucks. It helps. Helps keep the lights on, as they say, the lightsabers. Dudes, thanks for being here. Patrons, thanks for hanging out with us in the chat.
Don't forget, Mos Eisley is like a month away.
That's right.
So close.
And then Atlanta Mos Eisley is like 2 months away.
Oh my gosh. It's a lot of mosh.
MoshEisley.com. Tickets are on sale. Also, the Galaxy Cruise. GalaxyCruise.com. They're going to announce some stuff sooner than later. It's going to be a good time. That's a little over a year away. May 5th weekend. Sorry, May 4th weekend. Yep. I love Cinco de Mayo. May 4th weekend, 2025. And it's going to be a good time. We're going to be on a boat. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about more Acolyte next week. And until then, may the Force be with you. If you enjoy Thank the Maker, you can support us by following and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, our recording live stream, and more. Our patrons quite literally make Thank the Maker possible. All right. I'm gonna need a minute.